Welcome, everyone. Happy 108 Day. If you're not familiar with 108 Day, go to our site from the108.com. Check out the blog about 108 Day. It is our day of charity. It's a great time for you to give back to our community and get something in return. So if you buy something from our store, we're going to match it full and give it to charity. And then if you buy tickets to our upcoming live show on January 25th, we are going to match that and give that to charity as well. The three charities that we have are in the blog, but all very personal to each of us. So check out the blog and please donate. You could, if you don't want to buy shit from us, that's fine too. Donate directly to them. Love that too. So Josh, you're back this week. I wanted to get your thoughts on not only this week's episode, but last week's episode too. I know last week not a lot happened, so it's easy to batch them together.
Well, last episode and going into this, obviously the cliffhangers, wow, they got a new ship. And when they blew up the hull, it blew up the disguise. Like, it didn't actually blow up the front part of the ship. That's kind of what I was expecting, is that trash compactor, the arm comes down, they blow up the hull, and now they only have half a ship. No, it's just like a sleeve comes off of the ship. The ship's condom comes off, and the new flying dildo punches in the coordinates, and they know exactly where to go. Brand new sex toys. Yeah,
hey,
so
I mean,
that was a surprise, right?
A valuable toy. We find out later.
Yes. Love the crab. Reminds me of the scene in Moana. If you watch that animated show, movie, I should say. And so I enjoyed episode 6, and you have that conflict too between the girls, and Wim having suddenly a character arc. Was not appreciating that. I started to enjoy him. I felt weird. But now here we are in episode 7, and things have really turned on its head since we have arrived to the planet. And I really enjoy on how the showrunners and the directors and the writers portray At-En, because I think we get some really cool technology here, especially what is protecting the planet itself. That defense shield, I don't recall ever seeing that anywhere else in Star Wars, and that could be part of the lore of the Old Republic and what makes this particular setting very unique.
The thing it reminded me of the most was like and it's not the same thing, but like in the video games with the Operation Cinder, where they had those kind of weather machines and like things that were like destroying those planets. Like the tech seemed similar. But very different. And I loved when it just destroyed those ships. Like I did kind of feel bad for the Quarren that went in there, and they were just like, oh, send in the scout ship, and like he just gets blown to bits immediately. Too bad for him, but I did enjoy the whole aspect of it being this like huge defense system, not just like a cloaking device.
And they have quite the vessel, right? And it reminds me, like, we had a little bit of this in The Mandalorian, right? Of this big pirate ship. I don't think it's a good idea for that frigate to go through the defense system. It just seems like a lot of unnecessary death and destruction of your entire crew if they go. So now you got a sticking point here, and how this particular episode ends, it feels like Jod is really in control, but it reminds me of that scene from the movie The Watchmen, and that saying, it goes something like, I'm not locked in here with you. You are locked in here with me. And I wonder if that's a situation here with Jod, because even though he's got the lightsaber, and he's got the ability to pretty much cut up everyone on this planet, I don't know how he's going to get out other than loading up the credits into that ship that clearly can get through the defense system. But that's a lot of back and forth moving as far as all those credits.
That's the thing too. So like, I mean, like, yeah, I agree with you. It did remind me of Ocean's 11, right? Let's say we get past the guards and through the elevators we can't open, and past the guys with the machine guns and the vault we can't get into. Are we just going to walk right out? And that's like what he's got to come up with right now, because if he just decides, okay, I'm going to take this one load of credits and I'm going to leave and we're going to split that up and we're going to be good, he's probably going to be fine. But if he goes up there, unloads that, and then like goes back, they're just going to leave. Like, why would they stay? So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, so like
I guess the practical aspect too is that he's going to demand them to shut down the defense system.
Right.
And they're going to say the only person that could do that is the supervisor, who we still don't know. And we think we heard the supervisor in this episode, but that really sounded like a recording. And who knows how old that recording is.
Right. So yeah, so I'm still not sure who the supervisor is. I'm still not sure how he plans to get out. I'm not sure if that's even his plan, if he wants to get people in. So we're gonna see in the next episode how that all rolls out. I want to get into a few pieces with you, Josh, and just talk through some of these things. A lot of in the last episode of our show, I was talking about how I really didn't want to see Captain Silvo turn to good, which was like kind of the prediction a lot of people had throughout the show, which was, okay, the kids are going to warm his heart, it's going to turn around, and then he's going to save them somehow. I mean, when he shoots Brutus in the face from 2 feet away, I kind of felt, all right, there's no going back. So Josh, just reassure me that there's no going back for him. He is a bad guy. He's going to end a bad guy. There's no redemption arc for Jod Nana Wood or whatever the heck his name is.
Yeah. Well, what's he going to save everyone from? Like, what is a greater threat that hasn't arrived yet?
It's him, right?
I mean, at the finale. No, you're right. And I wonder if that is the overall theme, because it's Wim, right? Like, not being able to recognize who's actually the good guy and who's the bad guy. Like, the kids probably viewed their parents and the security droids as the bad guys because they make them live in this boring planet that's without adventure. But as they leave and they come back, now they've realized, no, our parents are good. The security droids are good because they protect us from bad people like this a-hole who promised us that he would take care of us. And now he's brought us home, which technically he did. Technically. But he's got his treasure.
They made it home on their own.
He did. That's a good point. Like, I guess at the end, they did take care of themselves. They did make it back because I use the excuse, well, I got captured. No thanks to you guys, because you wanted to mutiny me after I successfully won captain's rights or whatever the pirate code is.
Yeah. So speaking of the pirate code, and so this is something I wanted to talk about. SM33, who is my favorite character in this show. I don't. It was
Neil.
All right, Neil fucks, but SM33 is my favorite character, and Neil. We'll talk about Neil later in the show. If he ends the show the way I want him to end it, he might end up being my favorite character. But for me, I need someone who's a little bit murderous and who's a lot of bit hilarious. And SM33 checks those boxes. And in this, they're doing the whole pirate code thing, and you can't have 2 boats, and you can't do this, you can't do that. And then Fern just comes up with some bullshit, and he's like, close enough, and then starts fucking people up. I'm watching this, and I absolutely loved it. But I was thinking a little bit past that. Is there some additional programming in SM33 that is actually protecting At-Aten from being invaded by other pirates? So knowing that Fern and the kids are not a threat to At-Aten, and that his captain might still be alive there, is he programmed to say, no, F these guys, I'm going to get these kids home, I'm not going to let these guys through? And that's kind of what I was thinking when he just kind of went away from the Pirates Code. He's like, close enough, I'm gonna start punching.
I like that idea with the programming, because he was about to wreck everyone when he was forced to remember At-Aten, and his programming is to rip everyone's arms off. asking about where Adden is. So I wonder if you're right, because that would make sense if he does have that additional programming. Now, you just have to fuse his head back onto the droid body and reboot him.
That's my next question. Josh. So SM-33 gets his head lightsabered off, which is a nice clean cut.
Mm-hmm.
But Snowball lives. My guy Snowball, the bilge rat that lives in his head, survives. I've thought throughout this series that this stupid little rat is going to serve more of a purpose than he is. I wasn't willing to go to the Ratatouille levels that other people were willing to go to, that he was controlling this whole thing, that's actually Tack Renard. Like, I'm not in on that.
Okay.
But this Snowball at least drag the head back to the body, connect it, and we get more SM-33, which everyone wants. Everyone wants more Neil. Everyone wants more SM-33. We're getting more SM-33, or are we at least getting some more Snowball?
Well, we're definitely getting more SM-33. I think the head will be attached, and that will be one of my predictions in the season finale. SM-33 does come back. John had a chance to kill the rat. He had the lightsaber in his hand, and he did not.
He just kicked it. It was a very obvious zoom in camera. Hey, don't forget that this thing is alive. I don't know.
And he didn't kill it. So maybe he's not all evil. He's just having a bad day.
He's got a headache. He's just got a headache.
We've all been there.
You get that migraine, you start lightsabering droids' heads off, threatening to kill people's parents.
Done with you.
I'm going to slice up all your parents slowly in front of you because this headache is just getting to me. It's very Patrick Bateman like. I kind of like it. I want to say one thing on that before we jump off. There was some chatter about we're going to get the backstory of Captain Silvo, Jod, whatever. And I was talking to Chorizy about this, and she's like, yeah, I read a little bit deeper, and all they were saying was that you're going to really see his character in this. Not that you're going to get the backstory of his character. And you really do. And like, I almost don't want the backstory now. Because I'm at the point where, like, I really don't want another Order 66 flashback. And I don't think they'll go the full way of saying that this guy's somehow a Sith. So I think like a mysterious backstory to him with just this evil pirate character that has the Force is good enough. It's good enough. We don't need Silvo, like Solo. We don't need that movie. Like I think I'm just good with the way it is. Leave it as it is.
Even though you have Jude Law here, you don't want to keep using. Is Jude Law an A-lister anymore? He was at one point.
I really like Jude Law. He's been fantastic in this.
Yes.
No reason to overdo it. No reason to overdo it. Just have one great season. That's the other thing I'm worried about too, is that they're talking about a second season, and it makes me worry we're going to end up on a cliffhanger.
Do you think the audience though deserves a little bit of backstory to understand why this former Jedi, or at least someone who can control the Force, understand some Jedi disciplines? What made them break bad?
Well, I mean, I think it's enough for him to say something like, just like everything was taken from me. So why not, like when he's chopping off Wim's dad's head, say, like, why not take everything from you? It was the best thing that ever happened to me, or something like that. Right. Like to show that like he went through that in some way. I think that's enough. I don't think I need to know that, Ahmad Best came back and saved him too. Like, I don't need that story. I think I'm satisfied with the mystery of it. And then we can all have our own version of what what his backstory is, right? Like, so you could have the backstory of he's, a broken Padawan, that like lost everything in Order 66, and now, that turned him into an evil person. And I can have the backstory of he was always evil. He was trained as a Sith, and this was his destiny. And I love where he ended up, like that. I think let's have a little mystery here. Let's have a little bit left to the imagination, right?
Well, we did get this comment during the live stream from Jerry O'Sullivan. Star Wars needs evil villains. Jod is a perfect villain. And I think Jerry does make a good point. We need a variation of villains, because in The Mandalorian and Grogu and even Ahsoka, they now share the same villain, Thrawn. Yeah. And I do like this idea that there's more bad people out there. There's variations of bad people. With Star Wars, it could be more than just the New Republic and the birth of the First Order. That there could be smaller conflicts like this, but it's over 1,000 vaults, right? Like, we are talking, this isn't just a treasure. Like,
yeah, this is like unlimited. This is unlimited funds. Like the amount that's in that vault right there. It seems like it would be impossible to spend it all, right? Like, so yeah. So I like that. I think that the point is really good though about the villains. And one thing that I've always liked in Star Wars, and it goes back to like Han Solo, is like these pirates and smugglers, these people that don't really fall in the Empire or Resistance or Rebels or all those types of things. They fall outside of that, and they can be both good and evil, right? Like Hondo Ohnaka is a great example of like not a good guy, but like useful in some situations, helpful in some situations. Lando, Han, like there's a lot of that in Star Wars, and like I think like that's a piece that needs to be embraced more, because it's a very interesting, more realistic person, right? Like going with the kind of swaying back and forth of good and bad. So I really like that, and I agree. Jude Law has been a really, really good villain. And like, I don't want to throw that away. I don't want him to be saved. But speaking of that, speaking of the vault, the riches are real. We see them. There is a shit ton of credits.
Instant inflation for the New Republic.
Yes. But my question is, because there was part of me that was like, they're going to open this vault, that shit's going to be empty. Like, it's going to just, go back to the first episode with the empty vault. It's not, it's there, but is this somehow a trap?
I don't know. I don't know who is setting the trap though. That would be the question. Like, who would be setting up? Yeah, I don't know, because this planet's been so unknown. I don't know who's coming. Now, again, that beacon is still floating out there, right? It flew past the frigate. It's still going. Somebody else is going to hear this message. Who? Yeah. We don't know. And that's something that I'm pondering, like, for the season finale. And maybe that's the cliffhanger. If Skeleton Crew is part of this Mando verse, boom, Star Destroyer enters the area. Comes out of hyperspace. Whose Star Destroyer is it? Some of that needs a lot of credits, and then Jod's going to have some big issues. And that might be his opportunity to try to be a good guy once again, to help get people off at Adden before they get bombarded to death. Maybe that's one idea, but I don't know. Chorizy, I don't know if it's a trap, because if it is a trap, it's a great trap, because now you're in. But you really don't have a great way of getting out unless you're going to slice and dice all the security droids before they stun you.
Right, which we saw. I mean, they purposely showed that, right? Like that they can quickly just stun a person, which Jod would be susceptible to.
He would. It goes back to the supervisor. Like, is this a type of deal where the person that's actually the supervisor no longer wants to be the supervisor and be like, oh, bless up, Jod, congratulations. Now you get to stay on this planet, and now I get to leave.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's part of me that thinks that the supervisor is just is fake, right? It's just a robot. It's all automated. And then there's part of me that thinks that there's like some lineage of supervisor, and the supervisor is just super disconnected from everything, and has to be to keep them safe, like to just keep them there. So I think that the real question for me is, will these droids recognize Jod as the bad guy? And then something was brought up to me. This is something Chorizy sent to me, which is we're looking at the end of this episode. The lightsaber comes out.
Yep.
In my mind, I was like, okay, they're going to stun him because they're going to see the weapon. They're going to stun him. But the idea of the Republican emissary is something from the High Republic, and I believe it may be in the Old Republic, but in the High Republic, they were all, or for the most part, they were Jedi. So they might just go along with it. The droids might be like, oh, the emissary says these people are bad. He's apparently a Jedi. He's got a lightsaber. He can make things float. Like, they might just go along with it and usher these people back onto the ship, or throw them off the side down the never-ending vault. So I'm interested to see how this ends. How do you think this ends?
I think the defense systems get shut down, and that frigate does get down on the planet, and they start unloading the Republic credits as Jod somehow convinces security droids, to your point, all the citizens are the bad people. Jod is a legit part of the Republic, and they're just loading up what is owed to the Republic. And then somebody's going to discover that beacon. And I wonder if it's the New Republic, and we just get a bunch of X-Wings that enter at Aden. And at Aden suddenly becomes part of the New Republic canon, and we get a really cool X-Wing Rangers versus Pirates fight on at Aden, which would be a great way to close up. And I'm going to say Jod doesn't die, but he gets arrested by the New Republic. So they being Star Wars, can continue using Jude Law and this particular character in other shows or in other movies. So that's going to be my prediction. Like, because that beacon is still important.
I definitely think you're right on Jude Law gets captured. Jude Law ends up back in whatever prison. I have a slightly different idea here. And just bear with me for just a moment, because I believe you that they will get things shut down and have the big gigantic ship come in. I also think that there will be some distraction that starts the next show that lets the parents and the kids run off. Maybe that's SM-33. Maybe it's the kids causing a distraction. They get away. So they're up on land. Jod's like, fuck it, I'm going to get all this credits anyways. Gets the big ship come down. My man Neil, do not forget that in this scene, he learned how to operate the most gigantic gun I've ever seen a normal person just use in Star Wars. Neil is going to shoot down that big freighter pirate ship, and it's going to be glorious. It is going to be absolutely glorious. And then he's going to take the Onyx Cinder and go get his girlfriend off at Akron and then come back. That's how the show's going to end.
All right.
That's how the show ends. All right. Or, the ad Akron thing, I don't want that to come back, but I could see that coming back. I could see that being who gets the message. But yeah, I want Neil to blow that ship out of the sky with the big gun. I want him to use the big gun. Like, there's no reason that he saw that gun. There's no reason he picked up the little gun. Neil has it in him now. I can feel it. He's ready. He's ready to blow them right out of the sky. It's going to be beautiful. And his mom's going to high four him, I should say.
High four.
Not high five, high four.
Because they're elephants, right?
They got like they got 4 digits, it looked like.
Okay. I like that. So Neil with the cannon. Wim clearly dies.
Wim once again tries to use the lightsaber, chops his own head off. That's how his story ends.
My favorite part of the show. When he picks up the lightsaber and he's holding it upside down. I couldn't stop laughing. Oh, I couldn't stop laughing. That's still my favorite part of the show. I don't know what's going to happen with Wim. Clearly, I think Wim's going to do something quote unquote epic. All the kids, they have one big thing left in them. But I do feel like I feel like the New Republic is going to show up, and that's going to cause issues. Like, congratulations, you shut down this defense shield, but now that opens it up for anyone to come in, and that's going to cause problems for Jod.
I mean, like one thing, if we're talking about the kids and like how is that like how are they all going to do, their last bit here? If Jod forces them back onto the ship, I mean, obviously that opens up KB fixing SM-33 and getting him back to life while Jod's paying attention to loading all of these riches. So I think that's an option. I do think that like they have to pay off the supervisor somehow, and I don't get how they're going to do that from where they're at right now. Like, I don't get how we're going to get that.
Well, I do. Again, I think the security droids are going to tell him, Jod, like, is the Republic emissary, you got to get permission from the supervisor. Okay, well, then bring me to the supervisor. I do think we're going to figure out what is the supervisor in this show, in this next episode. And I'm going to say it's going to be underwhelming and just say it's another droid that is controlling all the droids. So the droids have been controlling this planet and keeping the humans in line this entire time.
It's going to be Luke Skywalker. Now that's we're going to. You're just going to be angry. It's got. You know what? It was the Emperor all along. It's.
That
helps. It helps in the tower.
Yeah, it's Palpatine.
Just his corpse, running the show.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think, Josh, we're ready for the last episode. I think it's going to be. So far, I have really enjoyed this show. I think I was talking about this yesterday at home. Just like, it's risky when you have a bunch of kids in a show. I think back to the Goonies, like that's the type of thing where somehow all of these kids just did a really great job, right? Like, which is really tough. It's really tough to have something like that.
A lot of stars, by the way.
And hopefully from this too, right? I mean, like, and these kids have done a tremendous job. So I hope they could just finish it out in this last episode and really, really bring home a great show, because so far so good in my opinion.
Yeah, it has been. The two shows that we had the lowest expectations for, Andor and Skeleton Crew, have crushed it.
I had very high expectations for Andor. All right, you give me a Mexican actor, you know what shit's gonna be good. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. But like the story itself, like, it's like, why is Andor getting his own show? Well, now we know. And Andor season 2 is going to be starting up here real quick. So after next week, we watch the season finale. We'll see if there's going to be a cliffhanger. I don't know. I'm with you. Let's just keep this one season. Disney has been very picky lately what they are renewing as they're waiting for feedback after season finales, which I think business-wise is a smart decision. Maybe not the best narrative decision, but I can understand business-wise why they are operating like that. But after Skeleton Crew, I'm gonna have to rewatch Andor season 1. It's not gonna be that painful of experience, so we could be ready for Andor season 2.
Hell yeah! I can't wait for it. I can't wait for next week to get this get this last episode in. I think it's going to be.
Do we have a
really
runtime?
We don't.
Okay.
And I'm hoping at least 50 minutes. All right. The 30-minute episode just seems not enough.
No.
So yeah.
Who's going to direct it?
Hopefully a really good finale. That might be available. I'll have to look that up later. But yeah, it's not Bryce Dallas Howard. I know she only had one episode this season. So
if it's like Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, then it's like wide open. I don't think it will be.
I don't think it is. I think is John Watt he did a good amount of. Let me see if I could quickly pull
Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, he's the force behind this. I don't see it. All right, well let's not keep this going and just looking for a director. But thanks everyone for joining. Remember, go to fromthe108.com today. It is 108 day. Donate to one of our charities, or just buy some stuff and we will donate on your behalf. So cheers, everyone. Talk to you soon.